I'm not searching for that mythical small business that actually has both their double doors unlocked during open hours. I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Hello, where is the right part of the song that I can use augmented and diminished chords? Thanks in advance. We're talking about those expensive chords today, aren't we? It's one thing to learn how to play them, but it's another thing to use them in context. And I think it's a great way to learn them by using some popular examples of them, right? And the best way to do that is on a guitar that is outfitted with Elixir strings. This video is brought to you by Elixir Strings. Thank you very much. I just put the 12 to 53s on the Martin D35, and again, it's never sounded better. Elixir Strings will augment any song and will never diminish your playing. A little music theory pun right there. All right, so let's start with augmented chords. And I think actually the best way to think about both of these types of chords is, what are these chords almost, and where are these chords pointing you, okay? Because I think it's actually probably gonna be a frustrating thing if you just think of like an augmented chord and think of its function as just a chord to kind of sit on, right? Usually these point you in a certain direction, okay? So real quick, let's just do an augmented chord on an E right here. So I've got my ring finger on the 7th fret. There's my root note on the A string, middle finger, 6th fret on the D string, pointer finger, 5th fret on the G string, right? So basically it's a major chord with a raised 5th. So it's almost a major chord, but not quite. It's got that augmented raised 5th, sharp 5 or whatever, right? So it's almost a major chord. When I say what is this chord almost? Almost a major chord, not quite. It's got a major 3rd in there, but where is it pointing us to, right? Best way, if you just want a rule of thumb, think of the augmented chord as being a replacement for the 5 chord in any key, okay? The example that everybody always uses is like "Oh Darling" by the Beatles, but you know, people talk enough about the Beatles as far as like learning. Not hating on the Beatles. Don't give me flack in the comments about hating on the Beatles. We just always use the Beatles as stuff. So let's learn like maybe some different ways to look at an augmented chord. All right. I'm gonna use one of my favorite chord progressions ever. Don't know why. Norah Jones. Basically, the main chord progression sounds like this. Okay, so snuck that augmented chord in there, right? We've got B flat, major 7 to B flat dominant 7, E flat, major 7 D, augmented, right? So we're not staying on that chord. Where is it pointing us to? Well, where is it the 5 of? Remember, my root note is where my ring finger is. It's super easy using this chord voicing to find the 5, because usually the 5th note in any key is where you'd put your ring finger for a power chord, right? So here's the root of an augmented chord. Think of it as where a power chord would usually go. Okay, so this is pointing us to where this is, the G. The G in the key of the song is G minor, right? So, great example of B flat, major 7 to dominant 7, E flat, major 7, augmented points us to G minor, C9, F, B flat. Right? And even because we're just kind of staying there, it's a great setup to walk to the destination, the target of what we're doing, okay? So, another great example is the Cardigans song, Love Fool, which I've always played on like pretty much every acoustic show that I've ever played, right? Sounds great, great acoustic guitar song to learn, honestly. It's sneaky great acoustic guitar song because like the main progression is like, then we got this little walk. Augmented to A, right? Now this is a slightly different example, but in the same kind of vein because it is a pivot point for a key change, okay? So like I said, this is the E augmented chord, and again, what is E the 5 of, right? Well, there's our ring finger, there's our root note, so it's an A. So E augmented would be a great thing to hit before an A. Doesn't matter if it's A major or A minor, and that's why it's a great tool to use for a key change. So again, Love Fool starts out A minor, D D minor, G13, C, then B minor 7 flat 5, which you're gonna get to in a second, A minor, D minor, G. We're definitely in that A minor realm. Then we're gonna walk this using the next chord we're gonna talk about, inching our way up to that E augmented. Then it gets into that A major part. Okay, so right there, an augmented is still on the 5 of the key, but using it to pivot from minor to major, and I think is a really creative way, okay? So that's a good rule of thumb of just where augmented chords would be always on the 5. Think of it as a 5, think of it as a replacement, but use it with intention. If you just try to put it on the 5 of any key, like, oh, I'm playing in the key C and I want a G7 in there or something like that, it might sound a little forced, okay? So again, use it tastefully, as those two examples did, but I want to also talk about, you know, what some people kind of consider like a cousin maybe to augment are diminished chords, and I want to talk specifically about half diminished chords, minor 7 flat 5 chords, okay? So again, in the same vein of like, what is this chord almost? Let's take this voicing of a half diminished chord, where again my root note is a C sharp or D flat, however you want to look at it, and I'm going to go 4 5 4 5. Okay, so kind of an easier chord voicing to play, and then it's like, all right, well, what chord is this almost? All right, I can just move the root note, and then it's a C major 7. All right, it's almost a C major 7, but it doesn't have the root. Alright? What chord also is this almost? If I move every single one of these notes, one note in the key forward, I'll end up with this. D major 7, right? So here's C sharp, minor 7 flat 5, half diminished. And then if I move in the key of D, the next note from C sharp would be D. The next note here would be here. We end up with the 1 chord. So you can use a diminished chord or a half diminished chord, you can force a diminished chord in here too, as the 7th degree on any key, okay? Now, again, if you're just hanging on this chord, it seems kind of unsettling, right? It's not stable because of that interval where the root and the 5 isn't there. Again, what is this chord almost, or where is it pointing you to, okay? But that same example in Loveful, where we get like from the A minor, D minor, G, C. I need to make my way from C major 7 to E augmented. How am I going to do that? I'm going to raise the root to make my way to the next chord. I can raise that root again, and that gets me to E, which gets me to A, right? So I think one great way to use these half diminished chords are ways to chromatically scoot up in different directions, right? A less popular example of this would be one of my songs, right? In Sickness and in Health from the New Riders album. It's like, if we start here. Half diminished. Right? It's like we're working our way semi-chromatically from a C to a G. C minor, B flat 7, A half diminished, A flat major 7, an inversion, right? So you can kind of see how using these as just little transition moves, again, in that same song, Loveful, whenever we want to go from A, D minor, G, C, B, A. I really think that half diminished chord is so tasty, just in between two other chords. It doesn't even have to be in the key, right? That's why I said, like, what is that chord almost? If you're ever in a key in, again, my style of writing is I'm always like real heavy on the 4 chord. So if I'm playing in the key of A, I want that D major 7 to be something really interesting, right? So maybe I'll do something like A major, the 3 chord, the 4 chord, A major. Right, right? See how right there, it's like, I almost think of this as the 4.5 chord because I want to get back to the 4 chord. So I'll get to what's almost that 4 chord. Get that little half diminished chord in there. And then use that as a transition, which could be a replacement for the 5 augmented chord. Okay, so again, these are just a few examples, just real life examples using these chords, but I think seeing them in context really helped me understand the function of these without really having to get too deep into the music theory. It's like, oh, well, this raised fifth is actually something that has, the root note is really the fifth of the next thing, and you add the fifth, and it's like, well, okay, just think of it as the 5 chord replacement, switch it up, think of it as a 7th degree minor 7 flat 5, and then just start adding them in there, and then just give it a shot, and then let your ears determine, what's good and what's not. You are daddy when it comes to guitar teaching. Bless, I hope you take this weirdly. Yeah, I take that pretty weirdly. By the way, I have to say the salty comment was and is true. You do look like you need a good feed, unusual for an American, since when I visited, I've always noted the immensity of people. You deleted a perfectly okay comment, which obviously you didn't agree with, but decided to delete. What a slimy little you are. I never thought that until now. F you. This kind of happens a lot where someone will leave like a vile, salty comment, which I have no problem with. Usually nothing puts a little pep in my step like getting a salty comment from a stranger on the internet. I've since found out that I'm in the minority about this. This actually bothers some like creators and stuff, but it's my absolute favorite thing about the gig, right? But what happens is, usually these are left by just internet trolls who have a history of leaving salty comments across any YouTube video just because they're hateful people. So what YouTube does is it will take their comment and it will hide it from me and censor it through their own algorithms and whatever. And then I have to go into like the YouTube Studio app, and there's like these hidden messages that might be hidden for inappropriate comments, and then I have to click on it and then I see it. But the user thinks that like I deleted it when YouTube's really hiding it, which is like, come on, bro, I wouldn't delete it. This is my favorite part of the whole job. But it's just so funny how triggered they get when they find out that their own comment has been deleted, and they always assume like, I'm trying to be censored by the creator that I was hating on, when really your own terrible, hideous actions have caused an autonomous platform to reject your comments just out of hand. My absolute favorite part. Classy sounding awesome, guys. So this is on a video I just posted the other day with me and Gracie jamming out. Sweetwater sent me one of those Electron drum machines. That thing is awesome. I would take a look at that if you haven't already, because it really got me thinking, having a drum machine just hooked up into a PA is the perfect thing to jam with somebody else, because I'm not a huge jam guy. If I have like friends over, so like, let's all get guitars and just jam. But when you just plug in a drum machine and you're just vibing and somebody's just like, it's like the drum machine kind of forces you to lock into it. Whereas it's like there's this awkward pre-jam phase you might have with another person, like, well, would you like to begin? Oh no, would you like to begin? Oh no, I couldn't do something. No, please, but it's like if you have a drum machine just like they're holding it down, it's so much easier just to get in the flow. So I watch that video if you haven't, because I thought it was a lot of fun, and Gracie always sounds amazing. She's a great time, great gal, so go show her some love. But thank you for watching that video, because that was a fun one to make. I feel weird about suggesting this for listening homework, but it's the new Harry Styles song. Why do I love this song? It's so good. Daylight, Harry Styles. I don't know, am I softening in my old age? Are my indie rock anti-pop sentiments diminishing? But it's great. It's great. Great job, Harry. We're all rooting for you. So thank you again to Elixir Strings for sponsoring this video. Best strings in the business. Seriously, they last forever. You should totally get them, because they're just the best. I put them on all my acoustic guitars, and I think they always sound great and last great. So thank you, Elixir. If you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.